thing you want to do is, I discussed in Module 4, was what is called BDS, Broadcast Data System.
Okay.
You want to make sure that your songs are encoded properly through BDS or media base. Once you encode your songs can be tracked. As an artist, you don't want to just put your songs out there just to say my song is on the radio. You want to make sure that you go through the proper steps, because there's encoding. From encoding is performing rights, organizations that keep track of your songs. That's how you get paid. That's where your royalties come from. Okay. When I mentioned BMI, ASCAP, CSAC, as far as them tracking your songs that are being played on the radio, that's performing rights. Okay. That's your performing rights royalties. That's where you get paid from. And in terms of tracking your songs through SoundScan, when it's scanned in the stores, those things are important because those are your mechanical royalties. Okay. So that the onus is on the artist to make sure that you cover yourself. You go through the proper steps of encoding your songs for radio, as well as understanding the proper steps in collecting royalties. That's very important. And as you learn through Module 4, we emphasize that. Hello and welcome back to YourMusicBiz.com. We're going into module number 4. We've learned some great information through our previous modules: how to start your own record label, how to understand publishing, and how to develop your A-team. As we go into module number 4, we're going to look at, now you have your product together, everything is ready to go, you're ready to promote your CD or song or whatever it is that you're promoting. Now we need to look at the technical aspects of the business, and we're going to turn to radio and television in this segment. The first item we want to go into is called SoundScan. Second would be BDS, synchronization license. Most people call it sync license, e-music, and international markets. When your song is ready to put out on the market, we've talked about how you publish your song, you get registered with the performing rights organization, you register your song with that performing rights organization. When I mention BMI, ASCAP, and CSAC, when your song is ready to put out on the market, you have to register the song, what you call song registration, with those performing rights organizations. That's the only way they can track your song. So you're going to do that. You're going to register your song through the performing rights organization. And secondly, what you want to do is register your song through what we call SoundScan, Nielsen SoundScan. That's going to be the tracking of your play and the tracking of your sales. So if you're selling a CD, your tracking is done through SoundScan. You're going to have a barcode on your CD. What you have to do is obtain what you call a UPC code, a UPC barcode. You get that first, and you register that barcode through SoundScan. Once you register that barcode is ready to be processed. So once you sell your CDs, whether it's on the downloads or whether you're selling it at local retailers or major retailers, SoundScan is going to keep track of your sales. That determines the sales of your CDs. Now, as we turn to what we call BDS, BDS stands for Broadcast Data System. Broadcast Data System. That's a system that's going to track your radio play. You have to register with Broadcast Data System, and it's called encoding. So you're going to register your song with the Broadcast Data System service, and there are other services out there, but this is one of the key services to go ahead and encode your song, so then radio can pick up that signal from your songs that are being played on the radio. So you have those two steps, SoundScan and BDS. The next step would be what we call a synchronization license, and we can call it a sync license. When you have a song that you're submitting to a movie producer wants your song. You are going to submit that song through what we call a sync license. That means that the movie producer is going to pay you a sum for utilizing your song. So utilizing the song is the same as licensing that song. You are giving them permission for your song to be played on a movie as part of a movie soundtrack. So that's called a sync license. And that fee is negotiable. It can be between giving it for free or making up to $250,000 a year. So it just depends. You know, that's up to the discretion of you as a negotiator or your lawyer and the movie company. That's called a sync license. But your song is already established. If a movie company approaches you and they want you to write a song for the movie, a scene for the movie, or sound for particular scenes, that's basically going back to a publishing agreement where the movie company will have ownership. And as we're going back to that copyright ownership, the movie company will have ownership of that work. And that's basically a partnership, maybe a co-agreement between you and that movie company, that producer, movie producer, or whoever it is. So we want to distinguish the two between submitting a song, your own song, because when you hear a popular song that's in the movies, you go to the movie, you hear a song that comes on the credits, basically they went and got a sync license from that record label or publisher to utilize that song in the movie. That's called a sync license. So you can't do anything, like I said, registering your barcode with SoundScan so they can keep track of sales, broadcast data system that's encoding for your song, so then that way they can pick up the signal on radio of your particular song, and your sync license that deals strictly with movies and television. Movies and television. So when a song is played, even on a television show or a movie, that's basically a synchronization license that you are giving them permission to use. So in the term license, it's a general term, but when you do a CD and you put it out to the public and they're playing it, or you give it to somebody to play it at a birthday party or whatever, you are giving them a blanket license to play your song at a particular venue, particular show, fashion show, no matter what it is. Okay, so that's part of the performance, what we talked about. Okay, the next thing we're going to discuss is far as your e-music and the power of the internet, how that correlates with the international market. Going back to Sound Exchange. Remember, Sound Exchange is a performing rights organization where you register your song, because going to the internet, once your song is played on internet and satellite radio, you are entitled to royalties. So I can't emphasize that enough to make sure that you are registered with Sound Exchange for that. As far as the e-music stores, remember, there's various music stores out there on the internet. You find what's comfortable for you. There's more than one source that you can go through. In the international market, looking at license and royalties, international markets vary. In some international markets, they are paid directly on a whole album or CD compared to song by song on mechanical royalties. So when we look at mechanical royalties, remember, going back, SoundScan is going to keep track of the sales. The mechanical royalties are based on sales. So the sales are based on, as a songwriter, you receiving mechanical royalties from the sales of that song or CD. In certain international markets, you are receiving royalties on the whole CD or album itself. You know, because, but it depends on the market, on the international market, because some royalty rates vary. Mechanical royalties is basically on a statutory rate in the United States, but your record label is going to dictate what percentage of that statutory rate they are going to pay you for that mechanical royalty. So remember those two things. In terms of your sync license, remember, do not give away a song, music, or anything without having a license in place. If you're submitting for a local movie project, a national movie product, or international movie product. If you are part of what we call a compilation project, a compilation is where you have a CD soundtrack and there's more than one artist on that soundtrack. That's considered a compilation because it's a compilation of various artists on that one CD. Make sure you negotiate your individual song and it's not just put into a pool of other songs. compared to that, because sometimes you'll be excited, and sometimes we're excited about getting a project on board, getting a record deal. We don't ask questions. We don't have the knowledge. So the worst thing you can do is go about your SoundScan, BDS, and sync license without having the knowledge of exactly how you get paid in the business. So we're going from taking a record, having it encoded, registering your barcode with SoundScan, encoding with BDS, establishing a sync license is if it's for a movie or television show, and making sure that you utilize the change in the internet process. Because everything now you can do yourself. You can download your music up to any e-music retailer. You can dictate as far as what you want to sell it for. But lastly, I want to go into developing your own website in the music business. As we talked about, this is a great time for being in the music business because you can do things more independently now. When it comes to developing a website for your music, develop your own website. When you're looking at social networking sites like Facebook, or you're looking at other sites like MySpace, those are basically networking pages, networking sites. If tomorrow they decided to take MySpace down, we'll all be in trouble. If they decided to take Facebook down, we have no control over that because you do not own that domain name. With your website, you want to take full control over your entity because your investment is that copyright. You have full ownership of that copyright. So developing your own website is key. With your own domain name, you register that name, you put it into usage, and you start developing. And you can sell your music on your website. And guess what? You have a chance to keep all your royalties. It's all yours. You don't have to share it with anyone. Websites today, you have a tremendous amount of resources that will show you how to self-build a website. There are resources now where you may not have the most elaborate website, but you can also build upon a website. It's best that you take advantage of those resources while you can. In terms of your domain name, in terms of having someone to assist you, and you may barter with an individual to help you build a website. There's an array of resources, so there's no particular excuse of you not being able to afford a website. You may have to put a little bit more work into it, and you may have to work with someone else to get that website off the ground. Okay, so that's the key. Becoming independent with your own website, with downloadable items, merchandising, promotion, things of that nature. And you can develop your own link. There's sources out there like PayPal where you can receive your monies from as far as on your own website. So it's key. But it's also key that you still establish the social networking tools, because with Facebook and MySpace, those are excellent tools to get the promotion, the publicity, to get it out there. Don't get me wrong. Utilize networking tools. As far as even YouTube, a way to get yourself out there, to get noticed, to get your music out there, to get noticed. So there's an array of things on the internet. But when it comes back to your site, make sure it comes back to your own site in the music industry. That's key. So as we've learned today, as far as the technological aspects of music, it's understanding how you register your songs, understanding that you educate yourself in every way along, understanding legal contracts, that's key. So with SoundScan, BDS, your synchronization license, your e-music retailers, and your international markets, take advantage of those things. And lastly, I would like to say that it's a joy to see so many people coming into the music industry. It's a joy to see people becoming so innovative in the music industry. But you have to open up your imagination. There are so many ways to promote yourself. You just have to be creative. Because if we stay in the box and we just promote the traditional way, you're not going to be exposed like everyone else will. So use your imagination, open up the doors, embrace change, and your career will go a lot further than you can imagine if you just do those things. So I want to say This has been enjoyable. I hope that you all learned a lot from each of our modules. Module number 1, we all going to have a great A team. Module number 2, we are going to be fantastic writers, and we're going to be great publishers, and we're going to utilize great publishing tools. With module number 3, we're going to look back on how do we start and run our own record label, what's important in being an entrepreneur. And finally, in module 4, we learned the power of the internet and understanding how our roles are in the music industry. So I want to thank you all. If I have any questions for module number 4, we're going to take those questions, but thank you again.
Hi Chris, you spoke about e-music, and my question was as far as the different e-music stores where people can have exposure to their music as well as purchase other artists' music. What about YouTube? Is there a way to collect royalties from YouTube?
Okay, that's a good question. As far as performance royalties, you can't collect music on YouTube because YouTube is basically, you're downloading independently, basically for exposure on that. There's no way of tracking through YouTube as far as your performance is concerned because there's no sellable tool on YouTube, you know. So YouTube is basically just a source where you can creatively download your video or you can play your songs or things of that nature, but there's no licensing for YouTube. Okay. Mm-hmm.
When you BDS a song, do you have to register every artist that's on the song that's being played on the radio?
Okay, good question. BDS, Broadcast Data System, what you're doing, you're registering the song itself. So the information from the song is being encoded and it's being processed, so then that way they can pick up the signal. So you don't have to register any artist names or anything because it's going to give you a portion where it says artist, label, title of the song. They're going to give you that information to input into that. So each song that you're getting played, you know, that you want to get played on radio, or if it's playing on radio, you want to make sure that that song is encoded properly. So for each song. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Chris, you talked about compilations, and I wanted to know, would the artist be compensated based on points as if they had an individual album, or based on that compilation? How are the points calculated for the payment of that artist?
Okay, that's an excellent question. With the compilation, if the whole is getting 10% and there's 10 songs, that artist would negotiate for that 1%. Each percentage is negotiated through the producer, executive producer of that particular compilation product, because you may have more than one song on the compilation. Let's say, for instance, you have 3 songs. So you're looking at maybe 3% of the sale of the whole project. So if it's not just a single, unless that single is pulled out, because you've had numerous soundtracks where, let's say for instance, a soundtrack may sell 3 million copies. So at the time, there's 4 different producers on that project. That percentage is negotiated up front for the sale of the whole project. Now, if a single is pulled from that compilation and sold individually, that's an individual project on its own. That doesn't calculate into the sale of the whole compilation, you know. But if it is selling, because one single may carry the whole compilation, but guess what? Everybody's still going to get the same percentages based on the original negotiation of that song. Okay, thank you.
Hi, Chris. So far as movies, there's a soundtrack for the movie, and then also there's scoring. Is there 2 separate sync licenses for those?
Okay, well, for scoring a movie, that's negotiated between that movie producer and the artist as far as what songs, what music is going to go on that particular project. That's scoring. So that's a publishing negotiating situation, as I mentioned. But as far as the soundtrack, those are established songs that have been predetermined to go on that particular soundtrack. So that's 2 different entities, scoring and soundtrack. Right. Okay, I hope I answered your question.
Everyone here wants to, they're in this business because they love music and they love being in the business. What level would you say people have to achieve in this business before they dare give up their regular job?
Okay, that's another great question. Great question. I think that independently, if you're starting a label and you're doing things to get things going, you have to be able to put 100% into your dreams in order for them to become a true reality in terms of how much work goes into the business. Because some people do music as a hobby, some people do music at their leisure, so it's different levels of where you want to be in the music industry. But if you have an artist, if you're a label owner, label owner, and you have an artist that's, let's say, working a full-time job, but you only see that artist maybe 1 hour, 2 hours a week, it's hard to develop a serious rapport in moving that forward. So I say there's no timetable, but I would say that get your interests out there, get as many contacts, build your network, and it will take care of itself. But I wouldn't advise anyone to give up their job as far as in the industry unless you want to truly move forward. Because if you want something bad enough, you have to work hard at it. You have to work hard at it. That's the advice I would give. Okay, thank you. Today we've learned a great deal about the music industry and how we bring things together, how we develop our A-team, how we have an understanding of publishing, how we understand technology is moving us in various ways. But most of all, we learned that if you want to be in the music business, you have to educate yourself. So as I conclude today, I would like to say thank you from yourmusicbiz.com. This has been Chris Terry. Take care. Hello. Again, I'm Chris Terry, your music consultant. I would like to thank you for being able to share the 4 modules in the Business of Music format. I am truly, truly happy that you had an opportunity to move your music career forward. It is so important that you understand the business end of music, to understand how you get paid in the industry, to understand how you format yourself as a songwriter, artist, and producer. It is vital that you understand the keys of the business of music before you launch your music career. Again, I thank you. I wish you the best in your music endeavors. Take care.